So I want to thank you guys for coming. First of all, I'm going to introduce our two people here who are going to give the majority of our presentation, and I'll let them do a little bit more of their own introduction. We have Christopher Old. He's from Sierra College, and we have Katie Bongard, who's from Lake Tahoe Community College in South Lake. So I'll let them kind of go through their own introductions for a bit, and then I'll pipe in throughout for a few pieces from the high school side of things about kind of the process to go to junior college or community college or two-year college, all the same thing. And then they'll walk us through most of this evening, and then we can have time for questions at the end as well. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you first.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so welcome. As Mr. Ream said, I'm Christopher Old, and I'm the counselor at the Tahoe Truckee campus of Sierra College. I'm also a psychology professor there, so I do a little bit of both. And so I wanted to talk to you a bit about kind of what is a community college, what's the role of a community college, give you some specifics about Sierra College as well, and then answer whatever questions you all have. And then also, Katie, feel free to jump in and throw out whatever ideas you have to go along with it. But one place I like to start is thinking about this college process, right? So how many of you are students looking at going to college in the next year or two? All right, a few of you. And then the parents of students, right? So if you're a student, think about how you're thinking about college right now, how you feel about it. If you're a parent, try to put yourself in the student's shoes and think about what might be going through their heads, right? So for some people, you may be feeling this way about college. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm just finishing high school. I don't want to go on and do more school, right? It's kind of that hands on the head, right? Other people may be feeling this way. They may be feeling kind of bummed. They're like, yeah, I'd like to go to college, but I don't think I can. My grades aren't good enough, or I don't have enough money, or that kind of thing, right? Other people are just scared, right? They're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be something totally different. Maybe first time moving away from home. How am I going to manage all these applications and figuring out financial aid and all the things that go with getting into college? And a lot of people are left here just scratching their head, right? There's so many possibilities, so many pieces to the puzzle, so many things to think about that it can be overwhelming. My hope is that by the end of this evening, you'll be here, right? When you're thinking about college, that you'll get excited about it. And at least seeing some of the different opportunities are here really close by, as well as all over the state and other places. So let me start with why go to college. So if you're trying to convince yourself if it's a good idea or not, or you're trying to convince somebody else whether it's a good idea, here's kind of the financial end of it. One of the reasons to go to college, right? If you look at it on this side, this is the median weekly income. And these are pretty recent. These are 2016 statistics based on degree. So this is didn't graduate high school, a little bit of college, an associate's degree, which is what you get at a two-year college, bachelor's degree, master's on up through doctorate. And so you can see that the higher the level of education, the more money people tend to make, right? On the other side here is unemployment. So the less education you have, the more likely you are to be unemployed. We saw this happen a lot in 2008 with the downturn in 2008. And it's not fair necessarily, but it's the reality. When the economy struggles, the people with the least amount of education are more likely to be unemployed, right? So those are kind of statistical reasons to go to college, right? Why you might want to go.
And Christopher, I'll add too, if you don't mind,
yeah,
that a lot of analysts in the economic world are predicting a similar crash in the next 5 to 10 years. So right when people graduating high school now are about to get into college, or get out of college potentially. So it's a big deal that can impact students on a broad spectrum.
Yeah, it can certainly make a difference.
Sure.
What if they're into trades, go into trades? How's that?
So they have some sort of, then they would have some sort of additional training and to pursue. So they might not potentially end with an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, but they would have more. The higher your education and training would probably be an additional word that you could add to it. You're able to market yourself higher.
And most of those folks will fall into this category of some college, because if you get a certificate, we'll talk about certificates later from a community college in, say, find you will be surrounded by people your same age, where you're able to easily find people of similar interests. Right? Once you get out into the work world, it tends to diversify more, and it's a little more challenging to make those social connections. So those are just some ideas on motivating around college. But tonight we're here to talk about community college in particular, as opposed to four-year universities, right? And so starting with what is community college, right? In our education system, we have community colleges, we have colleges, and we have universities. And so community colleges are called two-year schools because if you're a full-time student, you can get an associate's degree in 2 years. And so when you think about levels of education, you have skills certificates, then associate's degrees, then bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and PhDs. And so community colleges are where people can get the certificates and the associate's degrees and set themselves up to transfer on if they want to continue in education to get a bachelor's degree and master's and go on up. So if you look at a community college like either of the two that are here tonight, right, you get options. You can go for your degree, and sometimes people will come in, they want to get an associate's degree in something particular because they know that's going to help them get the job they want. They'll get an associate's degree and they're done with college. Other people come in and they come to us to get ready to transfer on to the four-year school. Right? One of the nice things about community colleges is everybody gets in. And so, for instance, we have a student right now who really wants to go to UCLA. Had good grades in high school, but UCLA takes 7% of their applicants, right? And so it wasn't going to get in on that 7%. They take 27% of their transfer applicants, right? So he had a much better chance of graduating from UCLA by starting at community college and moving there. In fact, 1 in 3 students at the UCs started in community college. So a lot of students will start, locally and then transfer on to get higher degrees. But we also have plenty of students that come to us because they want a specific set of skills, right? They want a skills certificate. Maybe it's a automotive certificate. Maybe it's an accounting certificate. And they'll come and take those classes to get that certificate and go right into the workforce there. So you can kind of be anywhere in that spectrum.
Do you mind if I add a little bit to this slide as well? So I was at the UC conference earlier this year, and they specifically, they were specifically speaking on both freshmen or right after high school admissions, but also made a lot of points about transfer admissions, which would be attending a junior college or two-year college, community college, and then applying as a transfer student. And one thing that's really important to know is there's actually legislation that requires UCs to admit a certain percentage of their freshman class as transfer students. So they have to, that 27% is not, it is like written into rule that they must accept for every, I think it's for every 3 freshmen, they must accept 1 transfer. So, and that's every UC, Berkeley, UCLA, Irvine. And so it is a great way. The other piece that I'm not sure if you'll mention or not, is it's also a nice, fresh, clean slate start for many students. And that your high school transcripts no longer haunt you through the college admissions process. Neither do the SATs. Neither do all these kind of hoops that we make you jump, or we don't make you, but colleges make you jump through to gain admission to high school. They are now not having to do that because they can now use their college performance and grades and accomplishments to then gain entry into those four-year colleges of their choice.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, a lot of leaders in the UCs and CSU systems will actually say that they prefer the transfer students that start at community college first because it kind of gets them ready to be at the university level rather than getting the freshmen, and they're all over the place. And what you'll see a lot of times too is when students go straight from high school to the universities. Some of them will definitely be successful, but some of them, they don't know what they want to do. So they're spending all this money and then they end up going back to community college anyway because they're just not ready.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what you can do at community college, right? Why go to community college beyond those alternatives, right? One is cost. And you're mentioning that. This shows the light gray is the cost of college in California. The dark is national averages. But you can see the yearly cost of community college versus the yearly cost of a CSU versus the yearly cost of a UC. And so a lot of students will come and start at a community college because on average, they can save their family plus or minus $15,000 by starting at a community college and then transferring on if they decide to transfer on. So it's significantly less expensive. Community college is by far the best educational deal, I think, in the country. Other reasons, the professors you have are going to be slightly different a lot of times in community colleges than they are in universities. And the big difference is community college professors are almost always working in the trade that they're teaching about, as opposed to doing research in it. So at your big universities, if you're a professor at your big university, a big part of your job is to do research in that discipline and to get grant funding to help pay for all that research. And so you don't spend as much time on the craft of teaching. Whereas your community college professors, most of them have another job in that field that they're teaching about. And then they teach because they're passionate about teaching. That's why they're there. They enjoy the teaching part. It's not how they're making their primary income, most of them. And as a result, we have a lot of people who are experts in their field teaching, right? For a long time, we had the police chief in Truckee was teaching our administration and justice classes. We have a mechatronics class that looks at electrical engineering, and we have an electrical engineer who has his own business doing quite well, who comes in and teaches those. All of our psychology professors are either in private practice or have had a private practice, before. So they're using the information, not just researching about it. So you get a lot of hands-on knowledge of what it's like. So a little bit about Sierra College, and it's similar for a lot of community colleges, but not all. But why come to Sierra College versus go straight into the university? Another reason might be this, right? Your classes on the Tahoe Truckee campus are more like this, right? This would be kind of your introductory first year or two classes at a big university. For example, my intro to psych class last semester, we had 17 students. Intro to psych at UC Davis is usually around 400, 450, I've heard. So that's a big difference in terms of class size and how much individual attention you can get. Because those smaller class sizes, it makes it easier for our instructors to really give people that individual attention that they might need. Our instructors often become friends with their students and connect their students to employment in the area if they stay locally, that kind of thing. So that personal attention is a nice thing about a small school. One of the myths about community colleges is that all the professors are teaching there because they couldn't get a job teaching at a more fancy school, right? And it's definitely a myth, right? For example, this is Kurt Heisinger. He teaches our accounting classes and a lot of our business classes. That book he's holding is a managerial accounting textbook that is used throughout the entire country, and he wrote the book. But he's teaching here because he loves community college and has been teaching at Sierra College for a lot of years. The other thing is a lot of our professors live here, and so they know what it's like being in this community, growing up in this community. And so they're really familiar. Our earth science, for example, professor who teaches a lot of that, he spent all his time here in the Sierras, so he can really connect directly to what's going on here. So we have really high quality professors, and I'm sure it's the same at Lake Tahoe Community College, same professors. Tahoe Truckee, I'll tell you, is a satellite campus of a bigger school. So Sierra College is all one school, but we have 3 separate campuses. To give you an idea on size, the Tahoe Truckee campus has about 400 students, 450. The Rockland campus, which is our main campus, has 17,000 students. And so the nice thing up here is you get that real small school feel, but you have the resources of a big school. Just out of perspective, this is our building here in Truckee. This is the library down in Rockland. But we can get any book from this library to our building within 2 days. And so we have these big resources of a much bigger school, but we have that small school environment. This is the campus map in Rockland. They just passed a bond measure where they're going to build more buildings and things up here as well. What can you study? One of the things with being a small campus is we don't offer all the classes because we don't have enough students to fill them. And so these are the majors that you can complete everything you need to get the degree on the Tahoe Truckee campus. Right? And so it's a smaller group of majors, but you can still definitely get a degree just on our campus. If you can take a couple classes in Rockland or online, then this is the list of degrees, and there's close to 50 different degrees that you can get down in Rockland. So a couple other things just to throw out there. I mentioned a little bit that there's more than just classes, right? I really encourage you, wherever you go to school, if it's community college, 4-year, wherever, take advantage of the resources that are there to help out. One of the big differences you're going to find between high school and college is in high school, if you're struggling, there's a bunch of people looking over your shoulder going, come on, we got to give you all these resources and help you achieve, right? In college, if you're not saying anything, we're assuming that you're doing just fine. We have a ton of resources to help students out, but they have to ask for them. But if you come and ask and say, hey, I'm struggling, I need some help, we have all kinds of resources. So take advantage of those. You know, on our campus up here, we have an on-campus orientation, so new students can get to know other students and learn about the campus. We have a mentor program where we connect every new student with a faculty member, so they have someone they can go to and ask questions to and get to know. We have campus clubs. You can take advantage of getting involved on campus. Students that are more involved tend to be more successful. We also have free tutoring. We have all kinds of different services. We are one of the only community colleges in California that also has dorms down at our Rockland campus. So if you want to major in something that would involve taking classes down in Rockland, you can live in the dorms down there. And it ends up being about $3,700 per semester to live in the dorms, and that includes your food, includes a meal plan.
That's super.
Which is a great deal, right? Especially if you compare to trying to live on your own up here.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the availability?
The availability is, it's right now, I want to say it's 150 to 200 students that can get in the dorms. So it is, you have to be on it to get into it. That building out the campus I was talking about, a big part of that is building more dorms, actually, down in Rockland.
What's tuition the semester there?
Tuition a semester, it's done by credit, so it's $49 a credit. You know, if you're a full-time student, it's 15 credits, you know, per semester. So it roughly ends up around $2,000 a year for tuition. Yeah. Good questions. Other questions? Throw this out here real quick. We have an academic enrichment program, which is for, so high school students can take colleges at Sierra College while they're in high school. Are you all familiar with that program already? Great. Yeah, so that's an agreement between Sierra College and the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District. And you can take classes for free as a high school student. So for this upcoming semester, if it fits with what you're doing to graduate for high school, you can take classes and get credit for college, and then also get high school credit for it. And that just gives you a leg up when you get into college. You don't have to take an AP exam or anything to get those credits. As long as you get a C or better in the class, you have college credits going into college. So you definitely want to think about that. That process starts by talking with Mr. Ream to see how it fits with the high school curriculum and what you still need in high school. And then he can sign a form for you, and then you just bring it and enroll for any of the high school
Registration
classes.
starts in November, I think, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's coming up. It'll be November 20th for academic enrichment students. So you want to start planning that now. How do you apply? So if you graduate, or even if you're applying as an academic enrichment student, but if you want to come to Sierra College, and this is true, this process is really similar at almost all of the community colleges, but you start by applying online. And so this is our homepage, and just click on the apply button and then go through the application. That sets you up in our system as a student. There's no essays to write for the application. It's not a competitive admissions process or anything. Everybody who applies gets in, but it just sets you up as a student in our system. Then you would want to submit transcripts, because we can use your high school transcripts to help place you in classes, or you can take an assessment test to place. There's an online orientation, and I mentioned the campus orientation. And then I really recommend meeting with a counselor. Come in and sit down with me. I'm the counselor on the Tahoe Truckee campus, and I can help you map out classes to get to whatever your goal is. It can save students tons of time and money. Because I know what classes we have right now, but I can also know what classes we're going to have before they're published in future semesters, and can help map that out so you can get to your goal as efficiently as possible.
I can't emphasize the need for a plan enough. So the biggest thing that I see getting in the way of students completing, especially completing a two-year transfer, 60-unit transferable program, is not having a plan, because courses might, like Christopher said, courses might not be offered every semester. So if you miss English 101, it might be on a bi-yearly cycle where it's not until fall semester next year that you can take English 101 again, which is a prerequisite for English 102 in the winter term. So it can really throw off and delay you from graduating with an AA, with a BA or anything like that. So they are the experts. They kind of do what I do here at the high school of helping you guys navigate this process and creating a plan of action to get through high school graduation, be ready for what's next. They do the exact same thing at the college level, but you have to ask for it.
Right.
Like I track students down. They will not track you down.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it all on your own. And
tracking you down tomorrow, Xander, by the way.
a lot of
shaking your head.
Keep on.
A lot of times what I'll find is students won't talk to a counselor until their second year there. And then they suddenly realize that they didn't organize things the way they were supposed to. And now everything gets put off another semester or two. So come in early, and that really helps. And then you register for classes through your student portal, through the My Sierra. I mentioned the assessment. You can take an assessment test or use your high school classes in order to place. There is a tool on our website. If you go under student services and onto assessment, you can use this placement tool, and it'll give you an idea based on what you took in high school and what grades you got in high school, what math and English you can place into. As was mentioned, spring registration starts November 19th for new students, November 20th for academic enrichment. And then you want to be thinking about the fall too, because in April is when students can start signing up for those fall classes. So if you're going to graduate from here and then start at Sierra College in the fall, you actually want to be deciding what classes to take and signing up for those classes in April. The reality is on our campus, because we're so small, you can get into classes most of the time a couple weeks before the semester starts. But if you need to take an online class or in Rockland, they fill up as soon as registration starts. And so if you want to have your pick of what time you take classes and things, you want to register really early.
So Christopher, does that mean that I can go online and apply and do all of those little checklist items on April 25th and get it and expect to be able to register on April 25th?
Yes, you actually could.
Should I?
But you probably want to space it out a little bit more than that. Yeah, especially if you're trying to do academic enrichment classes and you need to do the part of getting the high school's permission first. It all takes several steps that way. But the reality is you can get on the computer and you can register, or you can do the application, and then it'll immediately send you an email to get into your My Sierra portal, and then you could register for classes. But you wouldn't have time to meet with the counselor and plan it all out well. So you want to plan ahead a little bit. Definitely helps.
Can I ask about Lake Tahoe Community College if that's a similar timeline in terms of fall registration?
We have, our registration will be open for fall on May 24th for high school seniors.
Yep. And that's pretty common. There's 114 now junior college in the system.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. So it's not just up here. So you can really go anywhere. Pretty much if you go anywhere almost, except for maybe some of the very far north parts of California, if you're anywhere in California, you're probably within an hour or so drive of a junior college of some type. So that's how they're designed. They're designed to typically serve their local communities. But you don't have to necessarily stay in your local communities. You can go, a lot of our kids do like to go to San Diego, Santa Barbara. They want to hit up the beach. Just know, the tuition won't change necessarily, but the big cost savings is actually typically in the living expenses when you live at home, which most high school and sometimes parents don't want to hear. But it's true. You're going to save $12,000 to $15,000 a year just on living expenses by not adding additional cost by sending them away somewhere. And then I don't know if you're planning to talk about, oh yeah, you are.
I know I was going to add that too, and I saw it, I was like, yes.
Go ahead.
But I can, before he goes on to that, because this is actually a really exciting slide, I can attest to the enrollment process. This kind of seems a little overwhelming sometimes, registration and enrollment and applying. I sit down and enroll our students, our freshman students, through our dual enrollment program. So I go through the application myself, like every other day. And it doesn't take that long. It's about 20 minutes. It takes about a half an hour for freshmen. And they're all over the place and super squirrely. So as you know, you guys applying, it should be super quick, and it's the same application for all community colleges. At least the first half of it is. So it's a really easy process. They make it pretty user friendly.
Yeah. So the next part I was just going to mention financial aid, paying for college. So Sierra College just this year started a new program that's called First Year Free. If you complete 30 units, which is being a full-time student, if you complete 30 units in your first year, then tuition is completely free regardless of your income level, which is amazing, right? So you get a year of college for totally free. You do complete the FAFSA, and so everybody who's going to college, I highly recommend you sit down and complete the FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid form, and you put on that when you complete it what schools you want that information sent to. And so if you put Sierra College or Lake Tahoe Community College, that information gets sent to our financial aid departments, and then they'll send you an email saying this is what you qualify for. And it can be a mix of many different things. So in California, we have the Board of Governors fee waiver. And if your income level is at a low enough area, that makes your tuition free regardless of how many units you take. And so a lot of our students have free tuition, just because of the Board of Governors fee waiver. There's also Pell Grants, which is federal money that's free money that you don't have to pay back. There's student loans, which have interest rates and you pay those back. And they'll send you something saying, here's all the financial aid you qualify for. And then you choose what you want. Most people take the free tuition if they can get it. But things like the student loans, you don't have to take that if you don't want to. You can decide what you want to take out of the financial aid. Anything you want to add about financial aid?
Yeah, I have, so the president of our college might fire me for saying this, but I have a little secret. So that all community colleges in California are offering a free year of tuition as long as you're a full-time student. So that's super exciting. I have a lot of kids at our local high school that are like, I just don't want to be here anymore. And I don't want to live with my parents, and that doesn't sound too glamorous. And I'm like, you know what? I get it for sure. Go to another community college then. Start at the community college level, you'll get your first year free, and you'll be surprised a lot of our students do qualify for so much other types of financial aid as well that can really help you. And so you can actually get paid to go to community college when you break it down. You get your first year free by getting we call it the Lake Tahoe College Promise. Every other community college is going to call it something different, probably similar to that. And if you qualify for the Pell Grant, that's roughly $6,000 a year of free money. So I know we cut checks, personal checks to our students every quarter if they qualify for that. So we have some students that are getting $2,000 a quarter in their name, so they can use that for living expenses or food, whatnot.
What was that for?
It's for the Pell Grant. Yeah, which you need to fill out the FAFSA to get.
Yeah, so it's a need-based grant. I would encourage you guys. So we did a financial aid much longer presentation because it's much more in depth. I would encourage everyone, if you're thinking about, financial aid is applicable to all levels of college. And so I would encourage you guys hop on to YouTube and watch the video that I did a couple weeks ago, because we walked through some of the specifics about how it works, what the process is, what are the outcomes, how you read an award letter, things like that. So I would encourage you guys, it would be a good time investment. It's long, I apologize in advance, but break it up in 20-minute segments. Like it will benefit you in your pocket as well.
And how do we find that?
So it's on the high school's YouTube page. So there's a link right on the counseling section of the website.
Where that is?
Yeah,
and if Jeff creates a list of students that are interested in community college in general, whether it's Lake Tahoe Community College or Sierra College, I'd be willing to come up regardless of where they want to go, and I can walk you guys through the application process or help you with financial aid stuff too. I used to be a high school counselor myself, so yeah, I know I can attest to the financial aid stuff. It gets a little tricky, but it's such a good investment. An hour, 2 hours of your time, and you could qualify for all sorts of different programs. It's pretty cool.
And I've had plenty of students who didn't do it for a year because they figured they didn't qualify. And then we talked them into doing it, and suddenly they were getting free money they didn't know they could get. So always take the step. The worst thing that'll happen is they'll say you don't qualify. And it's free to do the FAFSA application, all that kind of thing.
So the FAFSA is for documented students, just one important thing. But in California, undocumented students can also receive financial aid by doing the DREAM Act, which was the other little icon over there.
Yeah.
So it's one or the other, not both. So that's an important factor.
And they can get the free year of tuition as well by filling out the DREAM Act.
Yeah. And so then kind of last things, one is the same offer. If you have any questions about filling out the application or registration or the FAFSA or anything like that, this is our front office, and we have a whole row of computers. Students can come in, or prospective students can come in and sit down and use the computer there. And there are a couple of wonderful women that work behind the front desk who spend a lot of their day helping people fill out the different paperwork and things. So definitely come. You can always call. This is the direct number for the Tahoe Truckee front desk. As opposed to if you go on the website, you'll probably get the Rockland number. So you can call and they can help you out. And then, as we've kind of been saying, this process is similar regardless of what community college you go to in California. Now, here's a map of the 113 community colleges all over California. And certainly lots of students from up here will go somewhere else and go to a community college there because they want to change the scenery if they've been here their whole life. And so you want to check with that school because the processes might be a little different, but pretty much it's going to be the same idea, similar tuition costs, similar enrollment processes, that kind of thing. One thing to check out is a lot of community colleges have agreements with certain colleges. So for instance, we have an agreement if you go to the Tahoe Truckee campus and you get a certain GPA, and I think right now it's a 2.5, you can automatically get into Chico. And then we have agreements with Sac State as well. And so different community colleges will have different agreements, and usually it's with neighboring schools, but not always. So you always want to ask that, because I've had students that moved to a different part of the state, went to the community college there because they were certain that would help them get into the neighboring four-year school, and it turned out that community college didn't have an agreement with that school. So moving down there didn't help them. And so definitely just ask the schools, who do you have agreements with, that kind of thing. All of the California community colleges are part of two systems. One is called the ADTs, which is an associate's degree for transfer, which is a guaranteed admission to a California state university. Not necessarily the one of your choice, but you're guaranteed to get into one if you complete associate's degree for transfer. And then with the UCs, you can do something called a tag, which is where you set up an agreement with the UC that you want to go to, and they lay out their criteria. And as long as you meet those criteria in terms of taking the right classes and getting the right GPA, then you're guaranteed admission into that UC as well. And that's true for all the community colleges. So what questions do you all have? Or what do you all want to add?
I'd like to add a personal note about community college. So and regardless of community college, so I work for Lake Tahoe Community College, but I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated from high school. I knew I wanted to go to college, and I was going to have to pay for everything myself. And so I decided I wanted to go to San Diego. And so I stumbled upon San Diego Mesa College, and I got a lot of financial aid assistance. I came from a very low income, single mother household, and I was paying for everything myself. And so I got a lot of financial aid, and I was able to transfer to San Diego State University and graduate there with no student loan debt, which is awesome because you don't want to start your adult life off in debt. It's just kind of a bummer to have these like $300 a month payments when you're first like launching into adulthood. And then I decided to go off and get my master's degree in school counseling, and I'm now my fourth quarter into my doctorate program. And so there used to be this stigma surrounding community college, like it's not a real education, it's just community college. I hear a lot of high school students saying that, it's just community college. And you absolutely get the exact same education, and you can go off and get your PhD if you want, and go off and do other things too. So it's a really good starting point for a lot of students. And for a lot of these students, if you are fortunate enough to have your parents that can help you with, financially in college, that's awesome, but save them some money too. And community college is a great route for that. Tell them to put in your travel fund or something for coming home at Thanksgiving and Christmas. So yeah, community college is a really, really great route. And there's tons of amazing community colleges in California, all over. They're awesome. Yeah.
I'd love to share just a little bit. So I think if you walked around and talked to teachers and many people, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who probably didn't have a community college experience at some level. I did. I took some classes at Cuesta College down in San Luis Obispo, and so they are wonderful resources. There are a few myths as well about kind of like, so some people think that, like you said, that somehow going to junior college or community college is better or worse or different. It's definitely different, but it's not any better or worse. And if you ended up wanting to transfer and get a bachelor's degree, there is nowhere on the diploma does it say Stanford University, but I started here. Like they don't care how you get to where you want to go. It's about accomplishing each kind of milestone along the way. And so for some people, that's starting at a four-year college immediately. For some people, that's starting at a junior college immediately. For some people, that's starting at a four-year college. That was me, starting at a four-year college and then going to junior college and then going back to four-year college and then going on to graduate school. And so there's not necessarily a right path to a certain outcome. The other piece is in the financial sense. Most of the time, it is true that junior college is the least expensive option. There are a few caveats that are important just to note too. So for some students especially if you have a zero EFC income, which means you qualify for almost nothing, or like you would qualify for almost everything on the FAFSA, meaning the government says based on your income, which typically is very low income, you should pay nothing for college. Sometimes the four-year college route can be relatively close to a junior college route, but for the vast majority of people, it can be a lot cheaper through junior college. The other piece is about that planning component. So it really only becomes cheap if you complete it on time. So if you do not complete junior college on time, then it actually becomes about the same or more expensive in the long run, because you're not only adding a third or fourth year to get through a program, but then you're also potentially adding a third typical in a four-year degree program, and then also offsetting missing wages. So you have to be very smart to save the money. And so that's where the plan, the focus, the energy comes into play, that it's super important to know your goal, work hard towards your goal, stay focused. And if you do that, it's a wonderful opportunity to get a great education and a wonderful opportunity to save money along the way. Not everyone necessarily has the tenacity to make that happen though. So it is something that, but the same thing could easily happen at a four-year college as well. It can very easily take 5, 6, 7 years to complete a degree program anywhere nowadays.
And one of the reasons you're seeing these first-year free programs is to encourage students to be full-time, because the statistics say if you're a full-time student, you're way more likely to actually get your degree than if you take 2 classes a semester for 8 years, because the attrition rate tends to be higher. And so trying to encourage students to be full-time because you're more likely to graduate.
So a lot of students, maybe this is a question I want to ask you guys so a lot of students might work while they're in college. So they might hold that apart, or even a full-time job. How often do you see students that are maybe working part-time taking full loads at school, and how do they manage that?
All the time, really, all the time. Yeah, we see a lot of students at our school specifically. They're going to school full-time during the day, and then they'll go off and have a restaurant job at night, which could be full-time, a full-time workload if you want. I recommend working at a restaurant at night because you eat for free, so depending on what your lifestyle is, it kind of makes sense to do that. But yeah, we definitely see a mass majority of our students work while going to school as well.
Yeah, and a lot of our classes are scheduled during the evenings because a lot of our students work during the day as well. So they'll work construction all day, and then they'll come and take classes from 6 to 9 at night and work on getting their degree that way as well. And so the schedules are kind of set up that way. One thing to mention that I didn't mention, we also have these success workshops. So this is a calendar of them. And these are for our students, but they're also open to the community. So anybody can come, adults, students, and there's a whole range of topics. Some of them are more school-oriented, like effective note-taking or effective textbook reading. But then there's more general ones like time management, money management, stress management. There's a career exploration workshop. And so I encourage you to grab one of these on your way out and come to these workshops. If you end up as a student at Sierra College and you can't make it at the time of the workshop, I can do any of these workshops one-on-one with you as well. You just set up a personal counseling appointment and I'll do a one-on-one workshop. But for community members, you do have to come at the time that they are, but there's no sign up for them. They're all free. You just have to show up.
Something that I did not do in college is I did not take advantage of any kind of program like this. And, you know, the free tutoring, the workshops, and we offer so many things like that. And I really wish I would have taken advantage of that if I could do a redo. So really take advantage of that, you guys, the free workshops. And a lot of these too have food sometimes embedded in, which is always super cool. So take advantage of things if they're offered to you and if they're free. And I want to add too, if you don't want to go to school forever and you don't want to go off and get a bachelor's degree, I mean, statistics show that, you know, the more you go to college, the more money you'll make. But it's okay too, to find something that you want to do that you make money and you're giving back to your community. And that's why community college is good for that too, because there are a lot of different programs that are 2 years, 18 months, like our Fire Academy for one. And Sierra College has a lot of those programs as well. You know, you come out you do an internship, you come out making really good money. And it's a really respectable career. So things like that, that's okay too if you don't want to go to school forever, you know, and community college is good to kind of figure that out because you're not paying, you know, $500, $600 a class. You're paying $0 or, you know, $100 a class to figure out what you enjoy and what you're passionate about.
So how do you find out about trade schools? Are they connected with some of the community colleges or are they separate?
Yeah, so
if you're interested in a trade, mechanic or
one of the flyers I have, this is our career and technical education program. And so this talks about a lot of the different directions you can go in the trades and what programs we have that might help with that. So, you know, we have a construction management program, we have an auto tech program, you know, some of those trades we have. And then there are other schools that are technical schools that are, the whole school is just for getting that, you know, that knowledge as well.
Do you have to do the junior college first before you do that, or can you go directly to some of those trades?
A lot of those you can go directly into those trade schools as well.
Universal Technical Institute is one that's often thrown around. Like that's for mechanics and automotive types of things. And that's a very specialized program that's their whole purpose is to train people to enter that industry as quickly as possible, as trained as possible. Oftentimes you will, so like the trade schools, because they are so focused and so technical, they will also often be more expensive. Often not at the university level, but definitely typically more expensive than a junior college would be.
And the challenge sometimes is if the student decides after trade school to go on and they want to get a bachelor's degree, sometimes the credits from a trade school don't transfer to the four-year schools, whereas your credits from a community college often do. But there's plenty of trades that aren't represented in the community colleges, and that's where those technical colleges have a great niche.
One thing, let me ask, like, how many of you guys know what the different degrees and certificate means? So like, how many would it be useful if I went and kind of did a quick overview of what is your certificate comprised of? What is an associate's degree, bachelor's degree? Because it basically, it makes a big difference. So a certificate is very, very closely aligned to those trade school options. The main goal is you are going full tilt, focused on a very specific, very specialized program. That might be HVAC, it might be mechanic, it might be paralegal, something along those lines. That's a certificate program. An associate's degree often shares similar threads, like you are working on a very specific, you know, major, but you also have a lot of some additional general education types of classes, which kind of just broaden the perspective and look of your college education. Makes you a well-rounded student. But it is very focused on getting you into a career in 2 years. But you do leave with a little bit more, you know, general understanding of the curriculum needed. The associate's degree for transfer tends to focus a little bit more on the general education components that the four-year colleges would also teach you during the first 2 years of college at a four-year college campus. And then the 2 years that you would transfer after junior college, you'd be completing what's called major or upper division level courses, which are all of your, you know, if you're an engineer, it's your engineering courses. If you're an architect, architect, architecture, things like that. And so it does, each step typically costs a little bit more money. Each step takes more time, but each step also takes a little bit more focus, energy, and effort typically. But there are different requirements. If you just want to go work your butt off, get a great paying job that is in the trades, you don't want to have to take another English class in your life. Like a certificate is often a great place to do that because you're ditching the non-essentials basically and focusing solely on the stuff that's going to help you get that career. The non-essentials though are highly viewed upon by most employers because if you're going to become a welder, often you have to know how to read, write, communicate, talk, understand other people, things like that, general human skills that you learn in many of these other classes, kind of the general education courses along the way. And is that close?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always recommend if you don't know, if you're going to community college, you don't know what you want to do yet, I always recommend going the associate degree for transfer route because you might change your mind. You know, if you just are going for that AA or certificate, say after 2 years, you do decide that you want to go and transfer to university, but you're like, oh, I wasn't on the associate degree for transfer path. So I always recommend doing the associate degree for transfer just in case you do decide that you want to transfer.
And you can dabble, right? Associate degree for transfer, you can dabble back and forth between programs, classes within reason.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to declare a major and you have to take the classes in that major, but then all the general eds. You know, the thing I'll add to that too is if you talk to employers, and one of the things I do is some career workshops and things. Some of the skills that employers want most are critical thinking skills and communication skills. That's what they say everybody lacks, right? Is that their people can't express themselves in writing or even verbally get their point across very well, and they won't think for themselves and be able to weigh the different options and come up with an answer to something. Those are the skills that the general ed teach you. That's what students learn in college, right? You may take a anthropology class and you're never going to be an anthropologist, but you spend a lot of time learning how to research information, how to present that information, you know, how to think critically through things. And those are the skills that employers have a hard time teaching. And so that's what they look for when they hire, because they can usually teach you some of the hard skills that you need, right? That's why if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, it's something like 85% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies have liberal arts degrees. They have like English and history and psychology and those kinds of degrees as opposed to strict business degrees. So those general eds can certainly help. But you can always go into a trade and then come back and get that stuff later too, if you decide to do something different.
Learning how to think creatively is a great thing that college teaches you because, I mean, the way that our world is moving, machines are going to take over a lot of jobs. And so what machines cannot do is think creatively. So that's a really, really good thing that college teaches you, you know, in a matter of different classes and things like that, time management and stuff like that. So.
What questions do you all have? Other questions? I know we covered a lot of information.
Ask us anything.
There's handouts and resources for both Sierra College and Lake Tahoe Community College up here. We have our spring schedule, a printout of the spring schedule of the classes that you can take directly at the Tahoe campus. You can go online and find our whole schedule for all the campuses and the online stuff. There's a trifold brochure about academic enrichment program if you're interested in taking community college classes in the spring while you're a high school student. It's a great way to see how college is different than high school and see if it's something that you're into. And then there's other handouts. My card's on there too, so feel free to grab that. And if you have questions, let me know.
As you guys go through the rest of this year, you guys need help if you have questions about filling out applications, the FAFSA, I don't know how to make an appointment, who do I call, what's Sierra College again, like, you know, any of those types of questions. The senior year starts to become like college. We're not trained in mind reading. So most of the time in senior year, if students are not necessarily asking questions about what happens after high school, we kind of assume you've got it together. There's no way for us to know. Okay, so it does become your responsibility as a student to come and ask for help. Even if it's help, I don't know what I need to ask for, but I don't think I'm doing something right. Okay, that starts a conversation and I can help probe about what you need help with. But people either get stuck not knowing what question to ask, or they just don't really ask any questions because they don't really read anything or follow directions and kind of just let it happen, think it's going to fall together because mom and dad are going to come do it, or I'm going to do it for you. things like that. And that stops when you walk out these doors. So it is important. Please ask questions, and we're happy to help you. If I don't know an answer, I'm very quickly contacting these guys or other people in my network of people that I know have a lot of information, the experts that I have connections with. Okay? Any questions before we wrap up? Anything at all?
And like I said, if you guys need help with your application process to any community college, I'd be happy to come up and walk you through that process. Definitely. Yeah, please take some stuff up here. We have things that we offer at Lake Tahoe Community College, as well as financial aid options, and a little bit more about the Lake Tahoe College Promise, which is the free year tuition.
All right, guys, thank you for coming.
Yeah.